Meanwhile, the Syrian Defense Ministry has released footage showing tanks and troops advancing in al-Hajar al-Aswad, an area of southern Damascus. The Syrian army aims to clear ISIL from the area. The army's advance in al-Hajar al-Aswad on Thursday comes after days of intense fighting with ISIL militants. Syrian rebels have begun pulling out of the enclave. According to Syrian state TV, some 5,000 fighters and their family members are expected to leave. The opposition still holds two large areas in the northwest and southwest along Syria's international frontiers. Right, and a twist for the Syrian conflict, if indeed this is going to happen. Let's get you a deeper look into that story. From Washington, I'm joined by Daniel Branches. Yasser Hakim is live for us in Cairo and Jessica King live in Moscow. Thank you all for joining us. Yasser, let's begin with you. Is Egypt one of the countries considering sending troops to Syria?
At the moment, Egypt has not confirmed sending any troops to Syria. Obviously, Egypt is already in a fight against terrorism in its own land in the northern tip in Sinai, and at the same time is trying to secure its borders from militant infiltrations from Libya, from Sudan, and from Gaza. So it's already been preoccupied by a crackdown on terrorism on its own land, and obviously it has sent naval forces around Yemen to protect the shipping routes around the Yemen, not to be affected by the Yemen war. So at the moment, Egypt has not confirmed so, and said that it was not even requested so, and that it prefers that the situation be solved peacefully, as the Egyptian president has previously said in statements that he prefers a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Syria.
Daniel, Washington is already bombing sites in Syria. So if the Arab countries join, what will be Washington's role in this fight?
Well, Washington at the moment and for some time has been supporting mainly the Syrian democratic forces that have been fighting ISIS fairly successfully of late, mainly through Kurdish fighters, but also some Arab fighters, some Assyrian fighters, and some from Central Asia as well. So they've been making a lot of headroom. They have obviously some air support there, about 2,000 US troops. But Donald Trump said, you know, as this is all happening, we don't have an appetite anymore to have US troops in the region. We want local and regional forces to take over. So you have Mike Pompeo coming from the CIA into the State Department, supporting this effort, reaching out to Arab partners. And you also have John Bolton becoming the National Security Advisor, who's also on board with this plan. So that's where you've got it at the moment. It could be a very complex mix of negotiations, but certainly there is an appetite here at the White House to get those troops out.
Jessica, we know that Russia is already deeply involved in this conflict. Will the presence of Arab troops threaten Russian interests in any way?
Yes, well, of course, we know Russia has a strong alliance with the Syrian state and the Syrian army, and many will say that Moscow will do its utmost to try to deny any other country any influence on this strong relationship. So they could see this as a potential threat. Of course, they have troops in the ground of in Syria. They have supported the Assad regime with weapons, but in recent months and weeks, there has been much more of a call to reach a political solution in Syria rather than a military one. They've really been pushing for de-escalation zones. They say they're very committed to the Astana process. That's their joint process with Iran and Turkey, which is trying to reduce the violence. So it feels like Russia would very much prefer a political solution to this rather than more potential troops on the ground.
Yes, sir. So whose side will the Arab countries be on should they decide to join this war?
Well, it's a complicated situation. You've got Arab countries divided within themselves even on which side to take. And others such as Egypt, I think, at the moment, I think would, for example, interfere or in a peace process capacity, maybe sending troops to preserve peace rather than to take sides. But if we look at if any countries will be taking a stand in this war, I think it will be mainly the Gulf Arab countries who have been taking a strong position against al-Assad and have shown it very clearly. Other countries have preferred a political solution, and and some Arab countries, including Egypt, have indicated if a peaceful solution requires the Assad remains in power, then be it. But as long as the Syrian people agree on that and can be united on one resolution. So there are divisions, and I believe maybe the Arab Gulf countries will be the most ones that can be involved basically in an Arab army or an Arab force at the moment. Obviously, any policies can change in this conflict anytime.
Indeed. And Daniel, does the U.S. believe the action they have taken will be able to restore sanity in Syria?
Well, here's the thing. Donald Trump said he just wanted to withdraw the troops. And of course, what the military and intelligence establishment then tells him is, we can't just do that. We have to have some kind of transition plan. So they've taken up the Saudis, for example, on their previous offer to the Obama administration to be involved militarily. But this is a very complex region. One of the key things is these two big players, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, very anti-Iran. So one of the factors may be that they are worried that Iran will have more hegemony in the region. Look at what French President Emmanuel Macron said when he came here. He said if they can't do the deal, if they can't, he tried to persuade President Trump to stick with the Iran deal, saying that they could have a plan B to prevent Iranian hegemony in the region. Perhaps that's one of the motivating factors here for the Trump administration going forward.
Now, Jessica, some Arab nations are allies of the U.S. Will troops from such nations be another source of friction between Russia and the West?
Well, it certainly could be. I think that tensions are already quite high between Russia and the West, particularly after the missile strikes which were conducted by the US, UK and France recently over the alleged chemical attacks by the Syrian government. The foreign minister here has said that that has really exacerbated the situation in Syria, even going as far as saying that the West are trying to interfere and actually destroying Russia's efforts in Syria and where they've got to so far. So I think, any allies of the West could be a potential source of friction and could, in the foreign minister's words, exacerbate the situation further. I think although there are these verbal tensions, I don't think Moscow or Washington or its allies want these tensions to turn into a military conflict. But I think Moscow could certainly see this as worrying.
All right, interesting conversation there. Jessica King live for us in Moscow, Daniel Branch is live in Washington, and Yasser Hakim live in Cairo. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you.